Welcome to the Tudor Dixon Podcast. Today, I have Alfredo Ortiz with me. He is the CEO of Job Creators Network and the author of The Real Race Revolutionaries and the co-host of the Main Street Matters podcast. Before I bring Alfredo in, I want to talk to you about my partners at IFCJ. After more than a year of war, terror, and pain in Israel, the need for security essentials and support for first responders is still critical. Even in these times of ceasefire, Israel must be prepared for the next attack because it can come from anywhere as Israel is surrounded by enemies on all sides. The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has supported and will continue to support the people of Israel with your life-saving security essentials. Your gift today will help save lives by providing bomb shelters, armored security vehicles, ambulances, firefighting equipment, flak jackets, bulletproof vests, and so much more. Your generous donation will help ensure that the people of Israel are safe and secure in the days to come. You can give a gift to bless Israel and her people by visiting supportifcj.org. It's one word, supportifcj.org, or call 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-IFCJ. 888-488-4325. We are in the midst of all of this stuff that Trump is doing, and people are worried about it, and small businesses are worried about it, but Trumpers are not worried about it, clearly, because if you look at the people who voted for Trump, they are very happy. I think it's the mainstream media that's trying to tell us that people are concerned, and yet you look at the difference between Trump and the Democrats, they are at their lowest level of favorability ever, and Trump is still surpassing them by leaps and bounds. So what's your take on what's going on?
Well, Tudor, first of all, great to see you. Thanks for having me. And given that it's St. Patrick's Day today, happy St. Patty's Day. I see you're wearing green. I unfortunately forgot my green, so oh well, I guess I get a pinch later eventually from somebody.
Yes, exactly. That's what my girls would say.
Although the liberal left tells me you can't do that anymore because that's, I don't know, somehow not allowed. But anyways, look, I think what Trump is doing is exactly what the voters asked him to do. Why they put him back in office is because it was just a mess for 4 years. The Biden administration just hitting us with regulation after regulation, almost $2 trillion in regulations that hit the economy. Trust me, that really hit our small businesses, that combined with inflation. And they were still trying to come out of COVID. I mean, our small business owners have really, really been hurt over the years. And so Trump to the rescue, as far as I'm concerned. And as a foreign business person, I love it.
Do you think that's the message going into the midterms, is that this is getting government out of the way, this continued release of regulations? I mean, I know in the state of Michigan, I mean, your podcast is Main Street Matters. That's literally the truth. In the state of Michigan, Main Street has been shut down because of overregulation and the fact that the government just comes in and takes your license at a moment's notice. I mean, it's just crazy what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I look across the country, I mean, our small businesses still are hurting, still need a lot of support. I am so excited to be working with Kelly Loeffler. So excited that she's the new administrator of the SBA. She gets it. She was a former business person. She and I have already been in communications about things that need to happen. I mean, look, the SBA, first of all, I think just shut it down in D.C., as far as I'm concerned, because when's the last time someone from Dubuque, Iowa, some entrepreneur decided, hey, you know what, I think I'm going to start a small business. I think I'm going to hop on a plane, go to D.C., making appointments with somebody, I don't know who, in those big offices in D.C. and talk to them about starting a small business. That's not the way it works. Right, so we should get all those employees out of there, close it all down, push those people out, at least qualified people, I should say, out to the the regional offices, make them entrepreneurship centers, innovation centers, right? I mean, that really encourage. I mean, Tudor, 20% of small businesses fail in the first year, and if you ask and look at the reason why, the number one reason why they fail is because they don't have a business plan. So entrepreneurs think it's kind of easy to just go out there and start selling lemonade. Well, you have to have a little bit of a business plan. And so I think the Small Business Administration has a huge opportunity to actually do that and teach our small business owners how to fish. As the old saying goes, teach a fisherman how to fish.
Well, and isn't that kind of
rate down to 10%?
Isn't that kind of the idea that we're, as Republicans, and I think it should be for all Americans, that we're looking at in some of these rundown cities that need repair, need to be lifted up? lift up within the city, but you have to give people the tools that they need to know how to do that. And I think that's what, like, I would even say in Detroit, we've seen Detroit come back in certain areas, but it's not because of Detroiters. It's because of people that have come in with their investment, and they've actually kind of kicked Detroiters to the side and said, okay, I'm going to build up this area. And then it leaves these pockets of severe poverty and then pockets of elitism. And that to me is the worst case scenario for a city that's trying to come back, is that you have pockets that are dueling pockets of society, and you can't lift up the folks that have ended up in severe poverty.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I wrote a book, The Real Race Revolutionaries, and that's exactly what I talked about, is the opportunity that minorities in particular have had with small business, and really being the opportunity to break out and get a part of the, the American dream. Quite frankly, under the Biden administration, it started with Obama, frankly, but under the Biden administration in particular, it was really hard to, start a small business just because of the amount of regulations, the red tape that existed, the inflation that was killing people, wages. I mean, it was just really out of control. And so I think for Michigan, for example, I think what the Trump administration is doing with small business is going to be a breath of fresh air. I think he understands it. He really embraces it. He knows that these small businesses are the growth engine of our American economy. And I think, we're going to see kind of resurgence, thank God, of these small businesses. Like I said, if we can get that failure rate down, let's say to 10%, you think about it, you have 33 million small businesses, Tudor. You could potentially create 15 million new small businesses in this country if you just focus them on, the SBA on, creating small business plans or helping these entrepreneurs create small business plans for themselves.
Well, you talked about Donald Trump and bringing back small businesses, and you talked about race. And one of the things that he still touts from his first term is that he had more minority entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs than any other president in the past. And he was able to build those businesses and that economic resource for people who historically had not had it. Well, how do you expect that to change in this administration? Because you mentioned regulations. I'll go back again to Detroit. In the state of Michigan, the most highly regulated area is the city of Detroit. And when you try to start a business there, I've been told that even to get through the red tape of starting a business, you have to have $100,000 in hand. Now, people don't have, that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
That's why only the elitists can come in. And that's what pushes the actual Detroiters and the actual city, the people that live in that city, to the side, because the barrier to entry is too great. So how does Donald Trump reduce that, at least on the federal level, and then we can come in on the state level and also continue to reduce?
Yeah, I think so. A lot of, the small businesses, that dealt with the SBA, I think a lot of it, quite frankly, was so focused on like government contracts. It doesn't get these government contracts, right? It was like kind of a doling out of
the government grift.
And exactly is what it was. And it was kind of like, the inside ball thing, unless you knew somebody who knew somebody, you weren't going to get support from the SBA. All that, I think, is going to go away. I think Kelly is saying, you know what, let's get rid of all that stuff. Let's focus it back on what it was the original intent, let's say, of the SBA, which is really to advocate for our small businesses. I looked through that $1.4 billion budget, which doesn't sound like a lot for the SBA, right? $1.4 billion in relative terms to the federal government budget. But $440 million of that was salaries, Tudor. $440 million in salaries. I ran $1 billion business myself at Kraft Foods, and I can tell you that was not my kind of overheads. I mean, I can't even imagine what they were doing with $440 million in salaries. This is ridiculous. We got to refocus it, and I think when you do that, and again with Donald Trump's direction and with Kelly Loeffler at the head, you're going to see a more approachable SBA. You're going to be able to see, I think, entrepreneurs actually being able to leverage the SBA to start their new business. And it's not who you know, and it's not a government grip. It's actually just hardworking individuals who, like me, when I started my small business, I put everything that I had on the line for it, everything I had. And that's because I believed in my idea. I believed in the American, the American dream. And I believed in that idea that if you work really hard, you can get whatever you want in life. And I think all that was lost with, especially under the Biden administration, it was all government grift. And so I think all that's going to go away. I think entrepreneurs are going to see a renewed spirit and a renewed focus in terms of their ability to do the stuff that they want to do.
Hey everyone, we've got more coming up with Alfredo Ortiz, but first I want to tell you a little bit about my partners at American Alternative. I know that people are seeing the stock market going up and down, and that can be scary, but that's why you need to think about the stability of gold. I know you heard Alfredo and I talking about investments, and that's why I'm excited to announce my newest sponsor, American Alternative Assets. They take a different approach to precious metals. American Alternative Assets gets to know you and your family and your needs to make sure precious metals are actually right for you. So you should just call and find out if they're a good fit, because they only work with people they know they can help. And then once you're a client, they provide quarterly check-ins to ensure your strategy is still on the right track. And here's the best part. American Alternative Assets is offering our listeners a free wealth protection guide and up to $10,000 in free silver with a qualified purchase. Call 877-522-GOLD or visit tudorsgold.com right now to claim your free wealth protection guide. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your wealth and secure your future today. That's 877-522-GOLD or visit tudorsgold.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. You have seen some of that resurgence just in people's personalities and how they feel and their hopefulness and how they feel about this. But I think it's something interesting that you said. You said, what did that 440 million in salaries get us? Well, the reality is we should know, because there should be a report coming out saying this is how many small businesses we've created and helped to create, and this is where they are now. And after a year, this is how many we're still going, and this is how many improved. Because the government should be held accountable. While the government doesn't create wealth in and of itself, this is the one area where it could help to create wealth, because in this area, you're helping people to build their own companies. And that is what the United States has always been built on. It's always been built on small businesses. I mean, people talk about Michigan and they're like, we got to pour into the auto companies. We do pour into the auto companies, but you know who makes the auto companies move every day? It's the small businesses around them. The small businesses are over 90% of businesses in the state of Michigan. And I'm sure it's probably the same way across the country. And yet we're not getting reports every day saying this is what we did. And we shouldn't even want it to be like, hey, we were able to help out these small businesses. It should be a very proactive thing. Like, this was our goal, and this is what we were able to do. This is what we reached, and this is what our plan is to reach next year. Because just like you talked about small businesses needing a business plan, SBA is getting a massive amount of money. They should have a business plan for businesses.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And they just didn't. They just had a lot of bodies who never showed up to work and a lot of overhead. An empty building in DC that's worth about $100 million. It's a beautiful piece of property, a beautiful building. Imagine if you could just sell that building. You create a little, pot of money for equity investments. I mean, with just a little bit of tweaking, honestly, and rethinking of that agency, we can really re-energize, I think, our small businesses. Again, that's why I'm excited about Trump, and I'm excited about Kelly Loeffler being in those positions, because they understand this. I mean, again, if we imagine. Just imagine this: if we were to take that $100 million and create like a little private equity fund that would fund maybe the future Microsofts and Apples, and really through these innovation centers, these regional entrepreneurship centers, have the opportunity to really invest in those businesses that are the future of this great country of ours. Rather than just have loans. I mean, that's all the SBA became, was like a loan administrator.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, they shouldn't be in the business of making loans. Give that over to the Treasury. Let the Treasury manage it. Let FDIC manage that. I mean, I was able to get a business loan with not talking to one person. It's all completely automated. It's all AI driven. Why do we need $440 million of salaries to process loans? For heaven's sakes, get those people focused on reaching out to the community and helping these entrepreneurs. And quite frankly, you can also create private-public partnerships. T-Mobile, Spectrum, Federal Express, FedEx, all these guys tout, AT&T, they all tout about working with small businesses. Well, guess what? Call them all in. Tell them, hey, we want $10 million from each one of you to create, an entrepreneurship regional training fund, and get them to do, world-class training for our small businesses as well. And so,
right. Right. I
There's
mean,
so
that's
much
even
to do.
something
It's
we've
just a
talked about
teeny
when it
little
comes
effort.
to schooling is partnering with corporations. If you can't do it through the government, partner with corporations. There is the opportunity to have a private public partnership in so many areas. But one thing I want to say in Michigan, there seems with Democrats in charge, there seems to be a focus on the quick fix. And we know the quick fix is never really the quick fix, right? It's like
Yeah,
whether
right,
you're dieting or you're trying to bring jobs,
right,
it's never
right.
a quick fix. And so Gretchen Whitmer has tried time and time again to bring in the business that's going to have 10,000 jobs. This one business is going to bring in 10,000 jobs. But I've said time and time again, look, if you look at all of the small businesses across the state of Michigan and you looked over the years of how many of them had asked the government, hey, if you gave us a little bit of help here, we could expand. Well, that is your low hanging fruit, because I would much rather have 10,000 jobs all across the state of Michigan than 10,000 jobs in one town, because as you get those 10,000 jobs across the state, as success builds, they build. And then the state becomes more heavily populated and you have all of your eggs in multiple baskets, not just one basket.
Absolutely. And you expand it across the whole country, right? And the same's true. We don't, I mean, that's the beauty is that President Trump, through a lot of his, we talk a lot about tariffs probably in the past couple of weeks, and you talk about some of the tax plans that he has. I mean, it all makes sense because it's about bringing jobs back to this country. It's actually, that's why I sit there and I almost kind of laugh at the left when I see their coverage, especially like on tariffs, these government layoffs. I saw this morning, they were having protests on the government. Do they really think that the American public is sitting there, sobbing over these government layoffs? They're like, dudes, welcome to the real world. This happens to us left and right. If you don't produce, you get fired. It's
right.
really easy.
And the problem is, like, when I talk to people about this, they say, oh, how can you have no feeling? No, it's not that way, because I know everybody's story is an individual story, and it's never easy to lose your job. So if I pick out individual people and say, am I joyful that someone lost their job? Never. But the reality is that when you are, even in your house, if you were going into massive debt, you can't just have everything you want. You have to make cuts. You have to make cuts no matter what. And cuts are painful. And I'm sorry, it's sad, but there are other jobs in this country. And the idea should be that we are building up more jobs within the country rather than within Washington, D.C. And I think that's what you would hear from Elon Musk. And that's what you would hear from Donald Trump is, hey, we want to expand jobs across the nation. And to do that, we need to make sure that they're going into the country rather than just expanding Washington, D.C. and this Washington, D.C. bubble. And as you look at, I think the American people are not so unhappy with this, because as they see how this money was being spent, they're horrified by how this money was being spent.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, when you look at the numbers, so there are about 33 million small businesses in this country with a failure rate of 20%, right? You drop that to 10%. You potentially create 15 million new businesses employing 2%. That's 30 million people right there. I'm sure that we can take some of those government employees, and those small businesses would love to employ them. I think the problem is that these government employees, and look, I have a heart, of course. I mean, I came from nothing to where I am today, so I know what struggle is like. But I also know that I worked my behind off to get to where I am. And I think the people who work their behind off are going to be successful and are going to be just fine because they are going to figure it out. They're going to figure out how to work. The people that are balking are the ones that are like, wait a minute, for 4 years, I didn't have to go to the office. And now you're asking me to go to the office. Wait a minute. Now you're asking me to like produce emails that says what I'm actually doing.
Right. I mean, which I always had to do at my offices. There was never a time when I could just go to work and do nothing. I always had timesheets and always had to fill out what I was doing. It's outrageous to think that people are upset about this. And where were all the protests when the Keystone Pipeline got shut down?
Right.
And they said, go build solar panels for $10.99 an hour.
Right.
And where were all the protests when everybody got fired for not having a vaccine? And I'm serious about that, because I'm like, I didn't see anybody freaking out about every time Joe Biden cut jobs, they were like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Those losers deserve it. I'm
Right.
like, what? And we're not saying that. We're saying
No.
this is how you rebuild the country. This is how you become well after being so many years of being sick. And if you don't believe that the United States, their economy is sick right now, you are out of your mind. And people say, why is it Donald Trump doing this? It's going to make it worse. Like I said, you got to feel a little pain when you have overspent, when you are totally overextended. You have to make cuts. You're going to have to feel a little pain to get yourself back on track. He knows what he's doing, and he's not shy about it. It's not like he's going, oh, no. I think it's going to work. He's saying, this is a serious situation. And you know what? I know that there's going to be a few months in here that are going to be rough, but I have 4 years to turn this around.
Yeah, I sit there and it just boggles my mind, right? I mean, we're $37 trillion, 36, 37, I don't even know the number anymore. Something like that, trillion.
And a trillion. And think about how you say that. And people don't even have the concept of 1 trillion. You could be off one or
I know at this point, I don't know.
It's a trillion.
36, 37, 38. I don't even it's so mind boggling. We are going to go bankrupt as a country, period. I mean, we all have households. We all have household budgets. We all know that if we have spending that's 1,000 times more than what we make, we're not going to survive. Our households will just go belly up. I mean, and so there has to be some pain, just like we all do in our own households, right? When the times get tough or people lose their jobs, right? You cut back, right? You pull back and you make some sacrifices, but you have to do that to restore kind of where you are and get your balance back. We are out of balance as a country. I mean, with that kind of debt, I mean, nobody's really talking about it. And the problem also, too, is that the economy under Biden, I'm not sure if, we talked about this enough, Tudor, but the economy slowly shifted from a consumer-driven economy to a government-driven economy. It used to be 60%, remember, 60% of the economy was consumer-driven, 65%, so only about 35% government-driven. Under Joe Biden, it's almost flip-flopped, right? And so we were basically funding the economy through federal spending.
That's crazy.
So unmanageable. You can't keep that long-term. And we were starting to break. We're going to have to make some sacrifices. We're going to have to make changes in this country, or we will go belly up.
So with that in mind, what do you tell people who are wondering how to invest right now?
Well, I mean, that's the tough part, right? Because with uncertainty, there's always, Wall Street and Main Street are like two totally different things. I mean, my advice to people is invest in yourself, right? I mean, quite frankly, invest in education and your training as much as you can. Invest in your ideas right now, because I actually think there's never going to be a good time to invest in your ideas, right? You just have to go for it. You have to put your business plan together.
It's so funny. I had this conversation with someone the other day about having kids. Like, we were like, oh, I don't think I can afford it right now. And I said, I will tell you what my parents told me when I said, I don't know if I can afford kids right now. There's never a time when you think you can afford it.
Right.
There's never a time when you think you can just go out there and start a small business and be successful. But people do it despite that. They do it. And as you just said, some of them aren't. But if you don't take the risk, you will regret that. You won't regret trying. You will regret not trying.
Yeah. And like I said, obviously do take the time to write the business plan. Take this time to, at night after work and, investigate, what it takes to, create that. If you want to open up a restaurant, I always tell people, when's the last time, just go down to your Main Street and walk up and down those restaurants that are locally owned. They'll be happy to talk about how difficult it is and what it takes to run a successful restaurant. Like, do your homework. Right? Do your homework now, right? Create a nice business plan. And then hopefully, friends and family or your own personal finances, you can actually take that. But there never really is a good time. I mean, I have to tell you, I took a leap of faith, but I believed in myself, right? And I think that's why I tell people, things are going to get better. I know you hear about tariffs and things like that. I mean, this has to happen, first of all, I think, to actually get to a fair trade standpoint, to get to free trade. Because right now we're far from fair trade, right, let alone free trade. So I think all the stuff that Donald Trump is doing on the tariffs, he is truly the great negotiator. He knows the leverage. He knows that we're the greatest, biggest consumer economy still, even though the federal government has been spending so much. So he knows that he can leverage that across every single trading partner across the globe. And that's exactly what he's doing. And he goes, okay, I'll just raise this tariff. You're going to raise mine. Eventually, all the other people are going to blink. So, I mean, and he knows that. And so this is exactly what it's going to take to get back to free trade. And we're going to have to make these sacrifices all across the board. And a lot of these things that people talk about, we can't touch Medicaid, you can't touch this, you can't touch that. I mean, one thing I would really encourage, Tudor, and if you can get the word out, because this is something that we're pushing on our end, is an actual balanced budget amendment, right? We have to have that because let's be honest, both sides like spending.
Yes, absolutely. Stay tuned for more of my interview with Alfredo Ortiz. But first, I want to tell you about my newest partners at Genucel. Ladies and gentlemen, a great story here. It's heartwarming, it's refreshing, and it's true. This lady named Phyllis, years ago, she walked into her neighborhood pharmacy in Colonia, New Jersey, and asked the pharmacist for an antioxidant cream for her wrinkles. This is something that is like near and dear to my heart because I also feel this way. And I've benefited from Phyllis. So I thank her because the pharmacist said, I'll compound one for you. Come back tomorrow. And Phyllis used the cream for 3 days. Then the best part is she went to her dermatologist and the doctor looked at her and was like, you must have gotten work done. She's like, no, I did not. She tells him about the pharmacy and the pharmacist that makes this magical cream. And that's it. That's how Genucel skincare was born. And that was 25 years ago. Genucel has shipped millions of orders, and yet they still have the same philosophy of antioxidants, same natural base, and the same chef in the kitchen celebrating 25 years. Genucel is offering the best pricing since Phyllis walked in the doors of Georgia's pharmacy. And right now you can save 70% off Genucel's complete skincare package featuring the Genucel under eye bags and puffiness serum. I use it. It's amazing. The dark spot corrector, also wonderful, something that I use every single day. And you get immediate effects. It's like you're getting results right away. You look 5, 10, even 15 years younger. And if you don't feel like you look younger, then it's guaranteed or you get your money back. So why not? Go to genucel.com/Dixon. That's genucel.com/Dixon. Every order includes a free shipping. And if you use Dixon at that checkout, you get that extra discount. It's Genucel, GENUCEL.com/Dixon. Again, that's genucel.com/Dixon. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And when you dig down into this, like I said, the government grift, a lot of times you'll see that a senator, their spouse has a nonprofit and somehow the government has put a massive amount of money into that. Or one of the like famous Republicans or famous Democrats that has been in the office, gotten out of office, like all of this money is going into that system and it's being recycled into people. But we're talking about people getting rich off of the government, which should absolutely never happen. There's one other thing I want to talk about, though, because if you are thinking about starting a small business or you are a small business owner, I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is to go to your summit and gala. It's coming up. It's the Freedom Fighters Summit and Gala in Savannah. So why wouldn't you want to go to Savannah? Because that's gorgeous anyway.
It is gorgeous in May.
So gorgeous. Yes. So this is May 1st and May 2nd. So tell us a little bit about the event and who's going to be there. I'm going to be there.
Well, first of all, spectacular people like yourself are going to be there. But we have other great celebrities going to be there. Governors are going to be there. We got Governor Youngkin. We got Governor Kemp, Kellyanne Conway, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, yourself, of course, Sarah Carter, Charlie Gasparino. We've got Steve Moore. We've got Grover Norquist. I mean, we've got like basically all the luminaries of the conservative movement there. But it's not just some huge gathering. I mean, the one thing I usually don't like about these kinds of things are like there's 10,000, 5,000, 20,000 people, right? It's not an intimate gathering. This is we kept it this way for a reason. It's a small, intimate gathering, really focused on discussions of policy of what we need to do as conservative leaders to move this country forward and help move this country forward. We have a couple of surprise guests, hopefully. I'm still in the middle of confirming, but we've got some great folks that are hopefully going to be on their way to that event in May that are really going to be focused on being able to make significant changes in our country, across the board and from an administration standpoint, but also great small business leaders talking about what we've been able to do to help them also advance their businesses through Job Creators Network. It started 14 years ago now, I should say, when the late, great Bernie Marcus had the vision of really helping these small businesses because he remembered what it was like to actually be a small business. And yes, the Home Depot actually was a small business that started in Atlanta, Georgia with 2 stores. and they were actually like 7-Eleven, reconditioned stores. So, and look now, 450,000 people, right? And so the idea is that we're going to be talking about these really important topics, the Tax and Jobs Act, deregulation, which is so important. We're going to talk about the debt and deficit, what we need to do there. We're going to also talk about, for example, reaching out to the Hispanic voting community, which, as you know, Donald Trump got 46%. A lot of our efforts went into helping him to get there. We need to make sure we maintain that advantage with the Hispanic community, because that voting bloc is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. We've made major inroads. We got to make sure we keep those going. And so there's just a lot there. But initially, we're going to have fun. We like also having fun. I think as conservatives, we forget that we can also need to have fun. It's okay to have fun. And so we're going to have great folks, great entertainment there. Lee Greenwood's going to be there, which I just love whenever he does his famous song. But we're just going to have dancing and great food. So great people there. So I encourage everybody to come May 1st and May 2nd. And in fact, we have a couple things that they want to come one day earlier. Things to do in Savannah, which is a beautiful, beautiful city if you haven't been. It's a fantastic location, fantastic event that we're planning.
Yeah, definitely check it out, because it is going to be more of a retreat almost, to go and learn, and you're going to take home a lot of information. It's not something that you're going to go and it's like those all day where you sit there and you're just kind of seeing who's actually going to come up next and if anything interesting is going to happen. You're going to be learning the entire time. And there could not be a more critical time to go do something like this and learn about what we need to do as small businesses and how we need to grow the country, and from some of the greatest thought leaders in the entire country who are going to be there, and all in honor of Bernie Marcus as well. And we want to just say in his memory, thank you for everything that you've done and everything that Home Depot became and what he's given to you as Job Creators Network. I mean, he was truly an icon, and we're so grateful for what he gave as a legend to this country. Before I let you go, tell people where they can sign up and any other way they can find Job Creators Network.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things too I wanted to quickly say, Tudor, is that when it comes to Bernie, is that he really set this vision, and we want to make sure that this event, that it's clear that this vision is going to continue. Just because of Bernie's passing in November, it doesn't mean that his vision is passing with it. I mean, we are going to carry this torch. We're proud to carry the torch, and we're excited that we're able to do this the way we are. And so, again, we encourage folks, to be able to do that. I'm just so glad that we're going to be able to do that with you there as well. So thank you for being willing to be part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much for being on today. Alfredo Ortiz, check him out at Job Creators Network, and give us that website one more time.
JobCreatorsNetwork.com or joinjcn.com.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us on the Tudor Dixon Podcast. For this episode and others, go to TudorDixonPodcast.com, the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us next time. Have a blessed day.